Luca, if you want everyone to give the video a like, can you do a really obviously fake cough? Good morning and welcome to another video, and this is the Road to the British Champs, episode 4. Now, before we have our little weekly sit-down chat, I've got the small matter of some squats, some bench press and some deadlifts. I'm into week 5 of my training cycle now, so things are starting to really ramp up. Today is doubles, working up to an RPE 9, so fingers crossed, things should be pretty decent. I'm sat outside the gym as we speak, so I'm probably going to go in and train now. Love you, bye. Okay, so that was 220 for a double. That was my 5th and penultimate double. So the last one is the one that's got to be an RPE 9. That feels fairly good, like not super fast, but fairly good on my back. So I'm going to go for 227.5 for my final one, because that'll be £500. That'll be a nice number to hit for a double. That felt good, like I got to watch it back. I figured it was around an RPE 9, but it felt like it moved fairly well, so I'm pleased with that. That's the heaviest I've gone like in quite a while, so that's good. Good news, right? Bench press. So I'm feeling really good. Now I have a conundrum. That was the penultimate double. I've got one more to go. Meant to be an RPE 9. My PB for a double is 157.5. I'm really tempted to go for 160. Like, I reckon I might be able to get it. It won't be. If I get it, it'll be like an RPE 10. So it's whether I kind of like deviate from the program, be greedy, and have fun, or go for something safe and stick with the RPE which is prescribed. You will find out in about a second. It was easy. Thanks, bud. You look really easy. That was pretty surprising. Friggin' hell, like my bench feels crazy good. This is definitely the strongest bench it's ever been. So testing in like 2 weeks should be interesting. the weather is good, let's talk. So the session itself was really, really good. I'm gonna say it's probably the best session I've had since I started the cut. Like, things moved well across the board. To start with squats, obviously I got up to that 227.5 kilos for a double, and it moved well. Like, I'm finding, like I always find with squats, to be fair, that as soon as the weight gets above like 80% of my max, it feels really, really heavy on my back. So I might be lifting a weight that I can hit for like 6, 7, 8 reps. It still feels really heavy when I unrack it. So it's kind of good to hit those heavy lows, because it gets you conditioned to the feeling of having something really heavy on your back, so that when it comes to single and like comp time, it doesn't freak you out when you unrack it and it feels like it's going to crush you. My technique there is still definitely a work in progress. I'm still not kind of squatting fluently and hitting each rep in the same way, but it definitely today was a big step forwards. I feel like I was a lot more consistent. I'd say probably like 3/4 of my reps felt quite good. We're kind of, you know, like grooved in the right way. So that's definitely, like I said, progress there. Bench press, there's no point, you know, I keep talking about this, like, you know, it's going really well. It's going, like I said, the best it's ever been. Like, bench press for me right now is the strongest it's ever been. So I'm very, very excited about that. I don't want to keep like talking about it. I just want to get on with it and get to test week, and then hopefully kind of put my words into practice. And finally, deadlift. Now, deadlift's probably like the one I'm like most pleased with in today's session, because it hasn't been going very well, mainly because I've been doing it at the end of my sessions. But today, to get 260 for a double, like, I'm really, really pleased. When I put that weight on the bar, I thought it was a bit optimistic, and I thought that if I did get a double, it would be a massive grinder. But actually, looking back at the footage, it moved really well, and even an RP9 is probably like being pessimistic. I think it was possibly even less than that. So I'm really, really pleased, and I think as with the bench, it sets me up to hit some good numbers when it comes to test week, and then obviously looking beyond that. And that brings me on nicely to today's topic, which is training split. So how should you schedule your training? How should your program look? What should you be doing when you go into the gym? Right, I'm gonna split this up into 4 areas. The first one being type. Okay, so what type of training should you do? Now, this is pretty simple. Your training should reflect the goals you have, okay? So if you're a powerlifter, the majority of your time in the gym should be spent doing squats, bench, and deadlift. If you're a bodybuilder, the majority of your time should be spent doing exercises that are gonna give you the most benefits in terms of hypertrophy, and so on. It's just a case of thinking about where you wanna be in, say, a few months' time or a year's time, and then kind of picking the exercises to suit that endpoint. I can't say it enough, but a lot of people go to the gym and do things that aren't really helping them, or aren't really helping them kind of get towards their goal. You need to make sure the things you are doing have a big carryover, ultimately, otherwise you're wasting your time. So I suggest that you sit down now and think about it. Think, what am I doing in the gym this week, and are those things going to help me get to where I want to be? And if the answer is no, don't do them. The next area to talk about is frequency. So frequency means how often you do something, okay? Now, in terms of strength, frequency obviously plays a massive role in this, but it's really, really hard to pinpoint what kind of frequency you should do. So how many times, for example, should you bench per week? Because there are guys that have world records who are benching once a week, and there are others that are benching like 6 times a week. So basically, what works for them may not work for you. It's about finding what works for you, and also at your training stage. Now, training stage is absolutely key here. So if you are a beginner, you want to basically get by with the least amount of frequency as possible. I can't stress that enough. If you've never bench pressed before, don't start benching 3 times a week, because if you do that, you know, you'll get brilliant progress initially, but then where do you go from there? You then have to go 4 times, 5 times a week, and before you know it, you can't bench anymore. So basically, if you are progressing, then you don't need to do any more. Just keep doing what you're doing. When you get to a point where your numbers start to stall, then, you know, if it's not reasonable to get any more volume in that one session, that's when you add in the next session. So to use myself as an example, when I first started, I bench pressed once a week. That fared me quite well. I got to a good point. I then started to slow down, so I added in a second session. A few months down the line, a third session, and so on. It's now at the point where I'm bench pressing 4 times a week, and it's working really well for me. Next part is intensity. So intensity means basically how hard you're training. Normally it's kind of looked at in terms of weight. So the heavier the weight, the higher the intensity. Now this point is really, really crucial, because if you're trying to get stronger, your intensity has to be fairly high, because ultimately lifting a heavy weight is going to make you stronger at lifting a heavy weight. You know, if you lift light all the time, you're not going to get as much carryover as if you were lifting heavy. But it's really, really important it's regulated. If you don't regulate your intensity, so if you don't track your intensity and do the right amount, then you're going to be screwed, because you're going to either do too much and overtrain, or not do enough and not get stronger. So again, to use myself as an example, I regulate my intensity by looking at RPE. So I have one day where the RPE is quite high, up to like a 9, like today, other days where it's down at a 7, other days where it's kind of average around an 8. And lastly, time. So a lot of people ask me about time. People say, how long should I be in the gym? I'm in the gym for 2 hours, is that too long? there is no answer. It's like saying how long is a piece of string. The time you're in the gym for ultimately is irrelevant. There's no magic number, there's no magic time you need to be in the gym for that's going to get you better results. It is a case of what you're doing in that session. It's quality over quantity. So for example, I could be in the gym for 5 hours, but if I sit on the bench press doing nothing, then obviously I won't get stronger. So look at it in terms of what you're doing in that session rather than the time it takes. If you're doing the right exercises for the right number of sets and reps with the right amount of recovery, the amount of time you're in the gym for is irrelevant. The only disclaimer here is obviously if you are a busy person or like me, you have like a young child, obviously you don't want to be in the gym all day. So in that case, you might want to kind of try and move things around to facilitate being in the gym for the shortest time possible. And that is pretty much that. I could talk all day, but I'm not going to because these seagulls are freaking annoying me. They seem to be like really against me making this video. So I'm going to sack it off here, go inside, get some food, and then see where the day takes me. Still haven't showered yet. I've been busy doing like check-ins and stuff. We're now about to head out. We're going over to Cez's auntie's because Cez's cousin recently got engaged. So it's like a bit of like an engagement celebration party type thing. Fingers crossed there'll be some food there. What are you saying, Luca? What are the chances out of 10 there'll be strong food there? Cool. See you there. We are here and it's pretty much best case scenario. Hello, look at this little array. Now when I got here, about half of this was over there in reserve and I've just annoyed everyone and spread it all over here with the help of my assistants, numerous assistants, who at first were bitching about like, oh, but then by the end they were loving it and they were well on board with the thumbnail. Right, let's eat some food. Right, I'm gonna head home, basically because I went training for ages earlier and did loads of editing and essentially skanked Cez off for Luca that entire time. I'm gonna return the favour and take him back and Cez can kind of hang out there for a bit longer. He's pretty tired, as you can probably hear, so my first job is to get him to bed, then I'm gonna try and find some dessert. Luca, if you want everyone to give the video a like, can you do a really obviously fake cough? Luca's in bed, I've had a shower, and that party food was freaking awesome. Like I ate loads of the stuff that you saw there, and then about 5 minutes later, loads of like little mini pizza things came out, so I raided those. So all in all, a pretty successful evening. Now I don't know if it's because I left early, but there was no sweet stuff, like it was all savoury, so it was really good, but if you know me, you know that there's no way I'm going to eat a savoury meal and not follow up with some kind of dessert. Now, we haven't been shopping yet, so that has presented me with somewhat of a conundrum because we have literally nothing good in the house. I've had to resort to the following. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate to the being so desperate for dessert and having nothing in the house that you're forced to eat out of an IntelliJar with a spoon. This is like classic. I've done this for a few years, to be fair. I feel a bit like a homeless man, but it's remarkably good. Also, not only am I eating Nutella out of a spoon, out of a jar with a spoon, I'm also like scraping it out because we have very little left. So this is pretty much as desperate as it gets, but it is good. So what are you going to do? Right, I'm going to end the video there, guys, because it's getting pretty weird and I feel a bit like this is an intrusion on my privacy. They're watching me eat Nutella out of a jar. So I am here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you tomorrow.